See how I'm going really slow because I can feel the tool jumping out of place. So I'm repositioning the tool. Now let me see if I can show you this. I don't know if you can make out inside that line, there's like little ridges catching the light. That's what we need to try and smooth down a bit when we tilt this back. I mean, look how narrow that is compared to that one. So we get that, but you just do that to get your line first. And that's what creates those ridges. Right, and then we come back. Now we've got the line, we come back, put your tool back in and tilt it further back. Not too far. Now I always keep a finger there. See how my finger's there? And I let my hand move and I can hold on with that finger. So my hand's not wobbling around in the air. Now, I flattened it between the two lines of the picture, but now I'm crossing over this bit and I don't want to flatten this bit of design. So when I get to there, I jump, come over to the other side and then start doing it again. Now also, you may find, as I'm starting to find now, that the leather will move around. So I've made myself a bean bag, and put your bean bag on there. Ooh, that looks nice. And we just keep doing the same thing. So it doesn't matter how much of it there is. Whether it's a small picture, whether it's a massive 4 foot wide picture, doesn't matter. It's the same technique and you just do the same thing all the way. So we're doing a lot of the little pointy bits in the picture. I am really sorry about the light, it's terrible, isn't it? So that's what we're doing at the moment, and we're just using the same tool, but we're being really careful that we don't squash any of the other lines. You can actually do quite delicate work with this one. You can tell when you've wet the leather perfectly, because it just feels so nice to tool it. If it feels mushy and it looks mushy, leave it to dry a bit longer, because you'll know when it's right, because you tap it and it goes exactly where you want it to go. We're going to finish off the rest tomorrow. You can see how it's starting to really stand out off the page now. This is the bit that's not been done yet, and you can see the difference. So what's happened is it's taken that long that the leather's dried out, so it's becoming spongy. So I'll come back tomorrow, I'll re-wet it all, wait for it to dry a bit, and then I'll finish off that last bit. So this is the next day, and I've re-wet it. I've left it quite some time. I'm just going to give it a bit of a test now, just to see if it's too mushy or not. Actually no, that's alright, so we'll get on. Yeah, again, don't forget to put a glove on, because as you're going along here your nails are catching the leather and it can mark it, and before you know it you've got loads of marks all the way along it. I was using that one. I've just found one even smaller, so I'm going to use that one. It doesn't make any odds, it's still okay. You won't even notice it, but I notice it. As I've said before, if you've got a stitching iron with lots of prongs on and it fits the distance between the holes, use that. Me personally, I just prefer doing it like this. Oh, and also, if you're really close to the edge of the leather with your holes, put it in the hole in your mark and tilt it so that it's going into the leather, not away from it. So in the hole, tilt it, so when I punch it, it's going that way. You don't want it too steep, obviously, but practice, that's what does it. Practice. Whoops. Damn it. Oh, it's come off. These little ones always come off. It's a shame. If I ever get my welder I might be able to fix it, we'll see. Let's see if this will do it. No, I can't keep changing that every time it does it, so I'm going to go back to my awl, my trusty awl. Because it's a different thickness all the way along it, and you can just open it up as much as you want. Also got to be careful, I've just realised I've got my watch on and my watch is catching it, so take my watch off. It's only made one little mark, but it is there. Imagine if I hadn't noticed it, I'd have marks all the way along there. And what I can do as well as I'm going along stitching is I always have an awl with me, so if you're putting your needles through, and they're getting stuck, just use the awl to widen the hole. When you're working with a giant sharp spike, be careful. But as careful as you are, you will stab yourself a few times. As long as it's only in your finger, you're fine. But that can do damage, so be careful. I don't know if you can actually hear it. It's a very wintry day out there. Well, we're in autumn, but it is very wet, very windy, and quite cold. But been in the workshop with the fire on, low lights, and just working away like this, it's really chills you out. We have all the holes done around the edges, so now the next step tomorrow will be sorting out the holes and things on the other pieces, which are here. That one, not a lot to do on that one. A few holes on that one, nothing on that one, nothing on that one. I think what I might do on this one though is I might score a few lines down it, and maybe that as well. Oh, we've got a couple of holes to put in there. So I might actually do those ones while we're here. Check that. There we go. One mistake I did make just then, which you got to be careful of, is hitting the punch too hard, and you end up denting the hole and making a mark. But it'll be all right. As soon as it's had all its buffing and whatnot, it'll be fine. So yeah, so we'll do those on the next step. That's better. We're taking the swivel knife and we're making tiny little slits, just strokes like that all over the rope. And also we've taken the rope stamp and I've put rope stamps all over, just to give it more, you know. You can just leave it bare like that. That's what the original artist did, but even he says, you know, that's because he's lazy and he doesn't want to do it. But you can do whatever you want. And you've got all this as well, which is just begging to be carved on. So I'm having a look into that. I'm taking it nice and slow because I want to check how the pattern goes together, because there's no point me carving somewhere and then it ends up folding in. So if it folded in like that, you can't see it. So I need to know exactly how it's going to close up. So I'll get the video up that shows you how he builds it, and I'll have a quick look and see how that's going to go together. Right, so we're now on this tiny little pattern. Where are we? There you go. So I'm now I've carved it with a swivel knife, but now we've got to tool it, like we have with those. Make it stand out from the leather. So where's my tools? There they are. I had to respray it, I've already sprayed the whole thing today, so all I needed to do was just spray a bit of water over that area. You don't have to, if you've sprayed it fully a couple of times and you just need a few more minutes, all you have to do is put a little bit on where you need it. Obviously if you're going to be tooling all day again, you need to redo the whole thing. Oh, another little thing that I haven't mentioned before is that yes, you have to turn your leather around to get yourself in the right position to tool the bits, but instead of keep spinning it all the time, look at the picture, see if there's any bits you can get whilst it's in that position, and do them, then change it round and do the same again. Like I've just done that line there, I can do that line, I can do that line, I can do that line, and so on and so on. Just do whatever you can see you can do at that moment. See if we can see it like that. There you go. I love detail. And that one is some kind of a dragon or serpent, more like a serpent than a dragon. And on there, in Viking runes, I wrote Valhalla. So, zoom out a bit. So when this is done, it folds like that. Stitches together like that, comes together at the end, and there we have it. So on one side you've got a serpent and this little thing, and on the other side you've got all the knotwork. So there you go. And I think that goes nicely with the rope work that I've done on all the straps. So another thing that I want to do is, there's a lot of area between these and it all looks a bit too much like this area, so I have got what they call backgrounders, and I've got two different size backgrounders. I don't know if you're going to see that. Let me see if I can put some light on it. Anyway, they've got a rough surface. They're only little. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet this area. Let me show you. As I say, I've already soaked the whole lot earlier, so I just want to do this bit. And we'll do a bit in there as well. Do you know what? Seeing as I'm going to do so much of it, I am going to add a little bit of water. I'm not soaking it this time. I'm just adding a bit. Okay. And that is because I want to use this to stipple inside these areas to give it more of its own background. I like the imprint that the tool has made around the edges, so I'm going to keep that. Sometimes I'll use the stippler or the backgrounder to actually do some areas just outside it, so it looks like what's inside is just leaking out. Almost gives it that kind of feeling, like it's coming up a bit. So instead of it all just being there and there, you do a little bit coming out just there so people can see it, so it looks like you can go under it. I mean, okay, sometimes you have to use your artistic impression, but rather than the reality. It still looks good. I think it looks good. I think what we're going to do as well is we're going to take the thing that we drew the pictures on with. We're going to go into these circles that I've put in the curls, and we're just going to put a dot very gently in the middle of each one of them. Yeah, I like that. I've also added scales on the dragon. Wonder if you can see that. I'm going to be, oh, I forget what they call it now, but I'm going to put some resin. Oh, resist. That's what it's called, resist. So I'm going to put some resin to use it as a resist, and I'm going to put it all over these knots. I'm going to put it all over the little pattern at the bottom there. I'm going to put it all over the dragon and stuff, because when I've done enough coats on that, and I usually do about 5 or 6 coats, let each one dry properly before you do the next, so it could take me a few days. But once you've got that on, you can then just get your pro dye, do it all over everything to get it all done neatly, and then quickly get some tissue and rub it off all this, and everywhere that you've put the resist, it resists it dyeing. So the dye should wipe off. Now it won't be as clean as that, it'll be more of a creamy yellowy colour, but it actually adds to the look of it. Okay, so I've just been recording without recording. So that's it all done. We've got the knots, got the stippling in the background, some around the edges, just a little bit. Got some stippling around the serpent just to make it stand out from the picture itself, and we've got the little, what is it, it's like a knotted deer or a knotted horse of some sort. I think it's a deer. Anyway, yeah, because these are antlers, aren't they? So we're going to do the Resolin. This is the Resolin. Now some people call it Resolene, some call it Resolene, but where I come from we call it Resolin, and it's by Phoebings. Now what that does is I use a brush, tiny little brush. Anything that you do not want to dye a dark colour, you will put this on. Now I'm going to do 5 or 6 coats, which is probably going to take me a few days because you've got to wait for each coat to dry. I might get 2 coats per day, so 2 or 3 days. But for you it'll be a matter of seconds. But once that's done and I'm happy with it, that it's gone hard wherever I want it, we will then get the pro dye, go over everything back and front, and then wipe off as quickly as we can any of the dye that's on the actual pictures. And we should end up, you won't end up with this colour, but you should end up with, if I can show you, if you see this, that's the kind of colour you'll end up with on here. This is exactly what we're going to do. So what I did was I put Resolin over everything that I did not want dyeing, and I dyed the whole thing, and then I put, once I'd wiped all that off, I then got antique dye, rubbed it on, rubbed it off, and the antique went into all the cracks. Do you like that? Nice, that, isn't it? I was practicing my carving and I was practicing my stitching at the same time. So yeah, came out okay. If you do make a mistake and you drip it on something that you don't want to drip it on, it's not going to dye it. Now if you drip maybe 1 drip, it may dye it, maybe slightly lighter than the rest of it. But the more you put on, the less it dyes it, which is why I'll be putting about 5 or 6 coats on. And also try and do it in one direction so you don't end up with it going all tacky on itself. It can get lumpy if you do it too much on itself. So get some on, cover the area you want, and don't keep going back over it. Just leave it to dry, you can get it on the next one round. Now I said about that filler pen that I used, you can still see the lines. Now I'm okay with that because it's all going to get sealed, and if it doesn't wear off, to me I think that adds a really nice touch around the edges. But that's just me. If you don't want that and you don't want any of it remaining at all, then don't use a filler pen, use something else. Me personally, I've done it before loads of times with that, and sometimes it comes off, sometimes it doesn't, but if it doesn't, it's no big deal for me because it always leaves a nice little edge to it, like a shiny edge. So if you do happen to go over a bit that you've already done, you'll feel it starting to go tacky. It goes tacky very quickly. so try not to go over it too much if you can help it. So you can always redo that area when you come back to do the next coat. Now it's up to you how many coats you do. I personally find that 5 or 6 gives me what I want, but some people do 8 just to be on the safe side. If you've spent hours and hours or days and days carving something, then you're gonna take that extra time to make sure that it does it properly. Whether you need that or not is kind of irrelevant. You do it until you feel safe enough to go over it with your die. If I was to do this one coat and then go over it with the die, I would not feel safe. I've done it before. The first project I ever did, I put resin on like it said, but it never mentioned about putting several coats on the video that I was learning from. Other people did later on, but not on that one that I used, and I found out the hard way, because when I put that dye on, it went straight through it, straight through that one little layer of resin. So yeah, just keep doing that until everything that you do not want dyeing is coated in that. Now it looks a bit dark now, but as I say, you've seen the result. Again, there's the result. Okay, now I've got some walnut Phoebing's Pro dye and a brush, and I'm going around the edges of where I've been the last 3 days putting resin on as a resist. And now I'm just going with this dye just around it. I don't need to go too close to it, because as soon as I've gone around it, I'll go with a proper dauber, and then once we're done with this dye, we'll go and do the antique dye, which will get even closer. That'll be rubbed all over the actual picture, and then it'll be rubbed off very quickly, so it fills all the gaps and brings out makes the detail stand out more. But first we need to just get in a bit closer with this brush. We don't have to get too close, because the antique dye, if there's any bits that I've missed by not getting close enough, the antique dye will get it when I go over the whole picture, which can be a little bit scary because you're not sure how it's going to come out, but you know, you just go for it and hope for the best. Right, so a bit more around this edge here. It's going to look a little bit untidy when you first do it, but it doesn't matter, just keep going, because you've got to remember the dye's wet at the moment and you haven't got as many layers on as you're going to need, so it can all look a little bit strange. And then we're going to come down to this one here, come in between it. Every now and again the brush just catches a bit of the picture with some dye, and your insides tend to panic a bit, but you've got to remember is you've just put some resist on. I've spent 3 days putting layers of resist on it, so if it's done its job properly, it won't let that dye go through. Might discolour it slightly, but it won't let the dye go through to ruin the whole picture. Also, walnut dye looks very dark when you put it on. but it goes a lot lighter. Now again, you don't need to worry about getting too close to the picture. If you miss a bit and you think, oh, I'm not close enough, don't do it, just leave it, because when you put the antique dye on, you're going to go all over the picture and it will catch any of those little bits that you missed, because the antique dye is a dark one as well. So don't worry too much, just go around the outsides like I'm doing here. I'm sorry you can't get a good look on the camera, but I can only put my camera in that one position because there's no table on the other side. And if you do, when you're finished doing all your main dyeing and your antique dyeing, if you still feel that there's little bits that need more, just put a bit more on. This dye's really forgiving. You just got to have confidence that what you're actually doing will look a lot tidier once you're finished. And if it's not the golden rule, if it's not what you expected when it's finished, you can always go over it with a darker dye over the whole thing and then hope for the best. The thing is, if the resist hasn't worked where some of the dye goes on, if the resist hasn't worked, it's going to dye it anyway. So nothing to get too upset about, just have it in your head that there's a plan B. Plan A would be it working out exactly how you expect, and plan B, well, plan B's not quite as you expected, but works out alright. Right, so let's get a dauber now. Okay, so we've got a dauber. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay. See how we're getting more dye on a lot quicker now. And a good way of helping it not to streak too badly by doing circles. But whilst don't think it's streaking while it's drying, wait till it's dry and then you can always add more dye to it. But every time you put more dye on, you're going to get a darker colour. So just remember that. Okay, and then to do the edges as well. Now make sure you don't touch the pictures with your gloves if your gloves have got dye on them. Now some people like to rub the edges of it, make it nice and make the edges nice and smooth, but I'm one of these people who likes the rough look, so my edges are going to be left rough. I'm going to do the back as well. Some people like to leave it the natural colour inside, but not me. Seeing as this particular one is for me, for my arrows, then we'll do that. Now you can use a sponge for these, and get it covered really quickly, but I don't have a sponge at the moment, otherwise I'd use one. But daubers do it pretty quick as well. Yeah, it looks really dark, thick chocolatey brown when you put it on, but when it dries it goes a much lighter colour. So if you're not sure what colour you want, do it some test pieces on some scrap leather before you commit to it. Right, as you can see, we now, let me just move the camera a bit. We've done it. That's the whole back done. That's the front done. Now it still looks a little bit odd because we haven't done anything with the pictures yet, but there's a lot of detail on them pictures. So what we're going to use is what they call an antique die. Let me show you one of them. There we go. Gel antique. This one's a dark brown. You can get a black as well in different shades. And all you do, dab of that on a cloth, rub it on, or a sponge, rub it all over and into all the detail on your pictures, and then you rub it off as quick as you can, and then you just let it dry. But we need to let this dry first. So I don't know how I've managed to do that, but I have got a blob of dye in there. Now, don't know how that did that. I must have just been swinging something around and it's dripped in it. Be careful of that. You can see for yourself. There you go. Right in the writing there's a blob of dye. This dye, it's just fell on there. Now I've wiped a bit off and I am going to put some antique dye on, so hopefully it won't look so bad. We will just have to see. So we need to get all the other bits now. So I'm going to take this dye over there. So we've got all these little bits now, haven't we? Whew. Careful you don't catch that and spill it. Now it's going to be a lot harder to do these because we've got a pattern on them, otherwise we could have just used a dauber. But we've still got the brush that we could use. So we're going to get some on the brush. I'm going to do this. You need a bit of a steady hand when you do this, but you get better and better at it as time goes on. If you notice my lights going up and down, it's because I've got electric fire on, an oil heater, and every time it clicks on to heat it up again, the lights go low, and as soon as it switches itself off, the lights go high again. Okay, swap that round, come back at it the other way. So expect that when you put it on, it's going to look really dark. Use the dauber. Go along the edge. Now, I don't want it catching on any of the other stuff, so we'll move them out. Ooh, we'll move them out of the way. Bring that back over. And then come back at it over that way. Again, don't forget, it's going to look really dark when you start, but by tomorrow morning that's going to look a lot lighter. It's already looking lighter, look. I don't know if you can see it because of this horrible light I've got in here. But then we do the back as well. Don't want to waste dye, so get as much of it out of the dauber as you can. Just rub it on, because the dye's expensive. Okay, so that's one bit. Now with these pieces are so small, don't know if you can see it. Oh, I'm so sorry, my light is terrible. But these pieces are so small that getting the edges and that takes no time at all. Very quick, very easy. Try your best not to get the dye on where the resist is, because it is difficult to get it off. Like I say, I've just had an accident now where I dripped some. I am experienced enough to be able to hide it though with the antique, so I'm not bothered. But you may have an issue, so be careful. But as I was always told, you can always, you can always dye everything a much darker colour over everything. You still get a nice pattern. This might not come out quite how you expected it to. So we've got to be careful on this one, because we're in the middle. Spin it round. It's just easier to go at it that way. And then we're going to go along the edge. You look at it and you go, oh no, God, oh that looks a mess. But wait until, just give yourself a chance, wait until it's completed. Because a lot of the process actually does make it look untidy, but it's the end result that counts. As the guy at Weaver Leather says, trust the process. Okay, let's use the dauber. Go over the ends again, make it a lot darker. Go on the edges. Bring it around. I want the end bits a little bit darker than they're starting to look, so I just put a bit more dye on. And if there's any of it that you want darker than it actually eventually looks, just put some more dye on, because every time you put some dye on it goes darker. Okay, so now being careful I don't put this down on a splash of dye, turn it over and do the back. Now we need to be careful again, because we're going right along that edge there, and these are very tiny. Okay. Okie dokie. So we now have all that dyed. I love this this tan colour that it comes out. It's lovely. Now I made it go darker and darker until it was as dark as I wanted it to be. This tanny orangey colour, I love that. We've used Resolene all over it. I used I used a sponge, just a soft sponge. Put the Resolene in a big container, dip it in all over. I think I did about 3 coats of that eventually. Let each one dry first. So it's been days, it's been about a week and a half since you last saw anything being done. But I've been busy. Right, so you see these little we done all the straps as well. But you see these little holes here, there, and there we are, done. So when that folds over, they'll be on the inside. And apparently they just hold the arrows in or something. You can put some in there, and the rest of them in there. I know, that's the way it is. We'll see when it's done. Doesn't that look cool? Very cool, that. So you can see what we've been doing here. We've taken the teardrop shape, started stitching one hole in from the pattern all the way around, and as we've gone round it's pulled it all together around, and we're just on the last few stitches now. Now I like to do saddle stitch, but you don't have to do a stitch as well, I don't think it's complicated, but let's say you don't have to do a stitch as complicated as that. Just do a normal running stitch all the way around it if you're not that confident. Now in case you ever get in a position where you put your needles through your thread, don't worry about it, just take it, chop a bit off, take it back a bit, tie it off, re-thread your needles and carry on. It's really not a big issue. It might seem so when you first start, but it's not. You'll get used to it. And I've done it 3 times while I've been doing this piece. So oh no. I've missed one. Or so it looks like. Right, now when I've got to the top here, I've got one more hole where it should finish, but I've got an extra hole there. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it, and when I come to put them together, I'll just bend that in. It shouldn't be an issue at all. This is the one I was talking about right at the beginning, that you'll come across problems that don't work out on the pattern. But don't get too worried about it, because you can work it out. Because there's two holes remaining there, and there's only one remaining here. So either we missed a hole, which I'm having a good look there and I can't see that I have, or there was an extra hole in that. So I'm going to finish that off there. When I've done all the stitching together and this bit comes together there, hopefully there should not be an issue. We'll see. But I've been very careful and I cannot see that I have missed a hole. Now, I did say something when I was watching the video of how we made it, and I'm pretty sure that's what he was saying, is that there is a bit of an issue with the number of holes. See, this has just come off my needle, so all I'm going to do is chop it, get a nice clean cut, put it through the needle if I can. Need a bit more of a cut. There we go, hopefully that'll do. Yep. So here we go. And come back, take your needle, put it through the thread, take it up a bit and bring it back through the thread. That gives it a secure lock off. Now I've just done, it did come off in the end, but I've just done loads before that happened. So I think what I'm going to do, I'll do that, and then I'm going to come back through in the top hole. There's always a way around it. So let's see if I can do it. We'll see. Right, so now I've got that nice and tight, and put the needle back through Actually, the hole's gone really tight now, so which is to be expected. There we go. Make the hole bigger with your awl. Stick that back through. There we go. And then we tie it off inside. So just do a couple of granny knots.